Hi, this is Munson with Munson Music, and welcome to my crash course on soprano ukulele. And we're going to kind of go over a lot of the things that you would want to kind of practice as kind of a beginner, kind of starting out on ukulele. And we can start off with things that you need to know, just parts of the instrument. And we kind of got a body, kind of the big part here. Then we have a neck, then we have a head, we have the tuners up at the top, and then the little white piece near the head is called the nut. And then we have these silver lines that are called frets kind of across the guitar or across the ukulele. And each one kind of has a number. So we have first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret. And you've got some dots to kind of help you find the fifth fret and the seventh fret. And then 7, 8, 9, 10. And then kind of normally a 10th fret dot. And normally the last fret actually is kind of your 12th fret, although it may differ for your particular ukulele. And then down at the bottom we have something called the bridge, which is kind of this big part down at the bottom. The little white piece that goes on, it's called the saddle, kind of like the saddle that goes on the horse that rides across the bridge. Then we have a sound hole where the sound comes out. Then you have your sides, your back, and then normally we have something called the heel on the back side. And we're going to start off again, kind of just, got all these different parts. We got our strings. And normally you would number strings from kind of the one closest to the ground to the one that's furthest from the ground. So we have first string, second string, third string, and then fourth string. Although each one also has a name for what note it sounds in music. And we'd have an A string on soprano uke, and then an E string, and then a C string, and then we have a G string, which is kind of above the other strings, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of what we would call a re-entrant tuning. Actually, banjo does this too. So you may want to just kind of play those strings and get used to that. So you got A, E, C, and then a G. Randomly, if you're a guitar player kind of coming into ukulele, this is the same tuning actually as if you were going to put a capo or one of those clampy things on the 5th fret on the guitar. So randomly that might help you actually. You could even pick up a soprano uke and just kind of run with it using chord shapes on the top 4 strings and completely ignore the tuning actually. You can kind of thinking like, oh, that's G and that's D and that's C. But we're going to kind of go over those. So you may want to kind of get used to just the string names, kind of that A, E, C, G. And if you play those in reverse order, actually, this is one of the silly tricks on uke that you can use to make sure you're in tune. It should sound like, my dog has fleas, 4, 3, 2, 1, kind of string wise, or G, C, E, A. If you kind of dig on that, sometimes that's a good way to check and see if you're in tune. Now there are a lot of different things that you could do actually for the right hand. I'm kind of big into hand isolation. So you could take your right hand and kind of experiment with different things you could do with your right hand. And for myself, actually, a lot of times you could use a pick, or you could use your finger like a pick. So I don't feel like you have to necessarily have a pick to play your uke. And what you could do is take your index finger even and kind of hold it kind of like a pick and kind of work that for your pick work. And I'm kind of just doing down ups actually kind of with the index finger. You could do that with a pick just to kind of get used to that. And actually, if you were tapping your foot to that and kind of doing down ups with your foot at the same time you're doing with the pick, down, up, down, up, down, up, that's something called an 8th note in music. So you could even take that idea, the 8th note idea, kind of a down up or 2 notes on every string, and then kind of try going back and forth just to get used to how far it is from one note to another note. Or something else you might want to try is even doing that with the fingers, actually kind of doing index and middle can be kind of cool if you want to kind of do just fingers, kind of stuff on uke. Or you could do different numbers on each string. And if you did 3, it's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's called a triplet in music. And I'm kind of doing the picking on that, kind of a down, up, down, and then switching it to an up, down, up. But I'm feeling things in 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that could be kind of a cool thing to kind of try moving between strings too. Kind of getting used to that, and that's called a triplet. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, a triplet, triplet. Or you could do 4s, kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's called a 16th note. You kind of do 4 on a foot tap. Or you could do any number you can think of, actually. You may even try 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 6s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. just any number you can think of to get used to moving around with the right hand can be a good idea. And you could try all those things with just the fingers too, or the thumb, just whatever you're kind of feeling. And then a lot of times after you work some right hand stuff, a lot of times you want to go to the left hand, kind of work him a little bit too. And your index finger is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And what I like starting with is 2-finger combinations. So you could take first finger and kind of do them on the first string and kind of on the first fret, and kind of just see if you can kind of press down a little bit of pressure right behind that first fret. And the closer you get to right behind the fret, the easier this gets. And then you could take number 2 and try him on the second fret on that same string, and kind of get a little Jaws, Sharky kind of thing going on with 1 and 2. Or you could do different combinations. Actually, you could do 1 and 3, or you could do 1 and 4, just to kind of get used to moving the left hand. Or you could do 2 and 3, or you could do 2 and 4, or you could do 3 and 4. It's kind of an interesting combination. You can kind of experiment with those and see what feels pretty good. And a lot of times I like taking things like that, like little ideas, and then finding ways to move on the instrument. So you could do 1 on each string, and that's something I call climbing, which can be kind of cool. Or you could even weave up the neck different ways. It's kind of just an exercise for a combination. Or you could even try going up a string, kind of doing 1 on each fret. And that kind of becomes almost a slide idea. You could almost kind of leave the first finger down, put 2 in front of it, and then slide the first finger to second fret. Do the same thing. So it's almost a slide 2, slide 2, slide 2. So don't feel like you have to lift off the first finger, because it's easier if you don't. And you're always looking for easy ways to do things on any instrument. So you may want to experiment with that, or you could do different combinations. Or you could do some technical things. One would be hammer-ons, where you kind of play the first finger note and then kind of put the second finger down to try and get the sound to carry. So it's almost like a magic trick. You're kind of not using your right hand for the second note. 1, hammer on 2. And you could even take that and try that with the climbing idea. Or you could reverse that idea and start with 2 and do kind of like straight towards the floor with your finger. And that's called a pull-off. And you kind of working it that way. So now it's reversing the combination. So kind of a 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So that might be kind of cool too. Or you work slides, where you kind of leave a little bit of pressure and kind of try and get the sound to carry to the next fret. And that can always be fun too. So the main thing is just find some ways to kind of move around with the left hand, where you can just kind of focus on just moving the fingers and not having to worry about what notes you're playing. I think it's kind of a cool way to do it. And then from there, a lot of times in a first uke lesson, I would talk about some basic chords so we can kind of play some songs. And ukulele, actually, especially soprano uke, is really made for the key of C. We love the key of C if we're on uke. And we can start with just the C major chord, where you kind of hold down the 3rd fret on the first string and you just strum all the strings together. That's called C major. It sounds really, really happy. And then from the C, we could go to an A minor chord, and kind of digging on the Stand By Me groove right now. So I'm going to go through that as a beginner tune. And then you could go 2nd fret on the 4th string, kind of on the G string. And that sounds an A minor chord, and it sounds really sad. And then from there, we go to an F major chord, where you do first finger on the B string, or E string, 2nd string, 1st fret. Second finger is going to go to the G string on the 2nd fret, and kind of stay there. And that's called F major. And it sounds really, really happy. And then from the F, we're going to be going to a G major chord. And the way you play G major, first finger goes to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, kind of on our C string. 2nd finger on the A string on the 2nd fret, and 3rd finger on the E string on the 3rd fret. If you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. And then from the G in the song, we'd be going back to our C chord. So that could be a good song to kind of start with. It's kind of a C, C, and I'm just kind of doing downstrokes to kind of fill in time. A minor, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, F, G, C, and a C night, a C come, A minor, and the land is dark, and the F moon is the favorite strum patterns for kind of a 4/4 like this is down, down, up, down, up. So if you took the C and just tried that a lot, you'd have down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Or a cool variation on that is kind of a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So if you tried that through the tune, you'd have the C, can be kind of cool too actually is working a C major scale around that tune if you're kind of interested in more lead ukulele stuff. Major scale is a good way to go, and actually the major scale that would work around this is something called a C major scale, where you could start on the C string and kind of play the open and then go to 2nd fret for a D note and then open E and then 1st fret on the E for an F note and then 3rd fret for a G note and then open A and then 2nd fret on the A for a B note and then 3rd fret for a C note. So that's kind of your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and I'm playing C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, B, C. And what can be kind of cool, and this is kind of just a free form idea, is kind of playing the chord, making up some stuff in the scale, playing the next chord, making up some stuff in the scale, F, stuff in the scale, and next chord, stuff in the scale, and then you're back. So you may want to kind of play around with that too. That could be kind of cool. So you could kind of say some stuff with the ukulele. So you may want to kind of experiment with that and kind of follow that. Now the weird part is actually, and this is kind of getting into some more advanced chords, is that Stand By Me isn't really in the key of C. It's actually in the key of A major. And A major kind of poses some interesting things for us on ukulele. So just to go over the song in the original key, you'd start on an A major chord where you do 1st finger on the C string on the 1st fret, and then we take 2nd finger and go to the 4th string on the 2nd fret, kind of on the G string. And if you strum all those together, that sounds an A major chord. It sounds really, really happy. And then we're going to end up working some bars here. But this could be kind of cool just to kind of get used to those, especially if you're starting out. This is the step 2 intermediate soprano uke, I guess. But we'd be going to an F sharp minor chord. And normally you do this 1st finger on the 4th fret on the 1st string, 2nd finger on the 5th fret on the 2nd string, 3rd finger on the 6th fret on the 3rd string, and you could even kind of cover that same fret on the G string too if you're kind of digging on that. So it's kind of a 4, 5, 6, 6 idea, and we're kind of playing an F sharp minor chord with that shape. Or you might even want to experiment with taking 1 finger to kind of cover those 2 notes on the bottom. Actually, sometimes if your fingers are bigger, sometimes that can be cool. I call that a double stop, just kind of borrowing a violin term, but if you play 2 notes together, double stop. So you may want to kind of play around with that. And then from the F sharp minor, we'd be going to a D major chord. And D major, actually, we've got a couple options here. You could do this as kind of 2nd on the 4th string, 2nd on the 3rd, 2nd on the 2nd string, and kind of working that for your D major. Or what can be really cool is to work this as a bar and take the 1st finger and do them across the entire 2nd fret. And if you want to experiment with where your thumb is, if this seems difficult, sometimes you can move your thumb and get the pressure from a different place and it'll feel better. And then you take the pinky for the 5th fret on the 1st string, and that's called D major. That's kind of working that shape. And then from the D, we'd be going to an E major chord. Really, you got kind of 2 options. You could take that bar shape, especially if it feels really good to you, and just slide it over 2 frets. And actually, this kind of relates to something we'll talk about in a minute, how you can find some other chords. But that's one way to play E major. Or you could use kind of a E7 chord, where you do 1st finger on the 4th string, 1st fret, 2nd finger on the C string, 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the A string on the 2nd fret, and you can kind of work that as kind of an E7 chord if you kind of dig on that. And then from the E, we'd be going back to the A. So you got a couple options there, kind of A has come, F sharp minor, and the land is dark. and the D moon is the E only light we'll see. And then we're back to the A. No, A won't be an A frame. No, F sharp minor, F sharp minor, B, E7, A. So that might be kind of cool because you can play along with Benny King. Everybody wants to play along with Benny King. Although it also gives us an opportunity, especially with those ones that we kind of are holding down all the strings for, kind of the A major or the D major shape and the F sharp minor shape, kind of gives us an opportunity to be able to chords. And this kind of relates to something called the chromatic scale on soprano uke. Actually, this can be kind of cool. That D shape that we're using, for instance, the actual D note that we're using is actually on the C string 2nd fret. It's kind of that D note. And on the A, we got kind of the A, B, C, or A, B, C, the 5th fret on the high, or on the 1st string is kind of the D note too. So you're kind of working just those 2 notes as kind of Ds. So if you knew where to find the other notes, actually you could find other chords. And what I mean by chromatic scale, actually, chroma means color. Scale means ladder, so this is the colored ladder of the rainbow scale. The easiest way to play a chromatic scale is to kind of just take a string, and if you play up every single note up that string, that's a chromatic scale. So it's basically talking about all the different note names that we have on soprano uke and actually every instrument. And basically in music we use the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we start over again. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But then we throw in some things called sharps and flats. And what a sharp is where you go 1 fret higher than the normal note. So for instance, if you took the A string and kind of went to 1st fret on the A, that's an A sharp note, which is beautiful. And then if you slide over to 2nd fret, that's a B, and then 3rd fret's a C, and then 4th fret's a C sharp because it's a little bit higher than the C, and then 5th fret's the D, and then 6th fret's D sharp, and then 7th fret's the E, and then we got a F, because E's are magic, they go right to F, and I know that's a little weird. And then we got an F sharp, and then we got a G on 10th fret, and then a G sharp on 11th fret, and then back to A on the 12th fret. So it's kind of every note you play on any instrument, actually. It's kind of A, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Although sometimes in music, we use flats instead of sharps. And what a flat is where you go the other way. So it's 1 fret lower than the note. So if we had the A on 12th fret and you go down 1, you could call that A flat. And then if you go down another one, that's a G. But then if we go down another, that's a G flat. And if we go down another, that's F. And then if we go down to 7, that's E. And then 6 is E flat. And then 5th is D. And then 4th is D flat. And then 3rd is C. And then 2nd is B. And then 1st fret is B flat. And then back to A. So that can be a cool thing to practice on any instrument, actually, is kind of playing through all those notes with the chromatic scale. And with our D shape, actually, we're kind of using that D note on the A string to kind of find that note that's kind of the chord. So whatever note you're playing on that A string with that shape of the bar shape is really what major chord it is. So right now it's a D major, but if you slid over one, that's a D sharp major. If you slide over another, that's an E major. If you slide over another, that's an F major. If you slide over another, that's an F sharp major. If you slide over another, that's a G major. And then we got a G sharp major. And then we got an A major. So you may want to kind of play around with that. That can be kind of cool to take that shape and try and move it. And actually, that F sharp minor shape that we're doing is kind of doing that same kind of thing, actually, except for now you're using the F sharp on the G string. So you might want to try just chromatic scale on the C string. So you may want to take the C string and just kind of work chromatic for that too. Kind of C, C sharp, D, and then E or D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. And then C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D flat, C. And then you could take that minor shape of the F sharp minor, and then if you slide it over one, then that'd be a G minor. If you slide it over there, that's a G sharp minor. Then we got an A minor. Then we got A sharp minor. Oh, this is getting cramped. But the main idea is you could take that shape and then move it around to find any minor chord that you need. So that might be kind of a cool thing to kind of practice too. Kind of F sharp minor, F minor, E minor, which is kind of cool because sometimes with E minor, actually you just leave the open G open. Or you could even work it as a 3-note chord actually too. So you may want to experiment with that too, but I just thought that would be kind of cool just to kind of go over that. And then from there, you know, go find some tunes to play on ukulele. So you have the A, sharp minor, D, E, A. So best of luck, and thanks for watching my crash course on soprano uke. So good luck.